I was listening to my pastor the other day, and he was talking about looking around you and just realizing that where you are right now, at one point in your life, you probably prayed to be at this particular point in this moment in time. And I started to think back, and I was like, you know what? That's right. So I started looking around. I was looking through my office and looking through my books, and I was reflecting back, 30 years ago when I was finishing college and really thinking about all my passions of what I wanted to do. And I just love stocks. I just love the stock market. So I was laughing at myself because I used to walk around with the stock newspaper everywhere that I want. So I would go before parties, I would be reading the stock newspaper, waiting for things to start at the party in college. And then I used to be a pharmaceutical representative, and I used to walk around with stacks of stock books. And I used to go on vacations and bring on my stock books and sit on the beach and read through my stock books. So I was looking back through some of the books that I used to read and some of my favorite books and some of the first books that I read. So if you have young people that are interested in stocks or you're interested in stocks, here are some of my favorite books that I've read about stocks and how I started to really learn about the stock market and from some of these books. So, um, first one was One Up on Wall Street. So I probably read this. This book is old. This book's from the 80s. So I probably read this latter part of high school, I guess, maybe early college. So it's really a common sense approach to investing. So it's like, look around you. Um, what are your kids talking about? What's your spouse talking about? Where are people spending their money? Maybe there's an opportunity there. Maybe you can start to do some more research around that. So if there's a store that you're going into a lot or a product that your kids are talking about, maybe there's a publicly traded stock in a way that you can capitalize on that. And that was kind of a basic concept, but I learned that from this book. This is one of the first ones that I read. So, in all these books, you can see all the highlights. I used to have everything highlighted all. Here's another one of my old favorites. This is The Warren Buffett Way. And I wanted to learn all the secrets of Warren Buffett. This wasn't even written by Warren Buffett. This was written by Robert Hackstrom Jr. But I used to go through here and highlight all the pages and put all my notes in the margins and everything. And one of the main things I remember learning from this book was the concept of operational leverage, that you don't want to invest in companies that are super capital intensive. Like I remember thinking, an airline may not be the best business long term because it requires so much money, so much capital to be able to make money over time. And every time you introduce a new fleet of airplanes, you have to spend a lot of money to make money. But companies with a lot of operational leverage are companies where you make a big investment one time and then you can scale the revenue based on that initial investment. For example, if you invest in a bunch of software so that you could do an analysis for business clients, right? Now you made that initial investment in a lot of very expensive software, but the more clients you get, you don't have to buy more software to service these clients. So you've already made the investment and you can scale and leverage that initial investment. Those are really great companies longer term, typically. So the whole concept of having a strong return on capital, I learned from this book. So this is one of my favorite old books that I read as well. Now, the stuff I learned in this book, How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill, this book is my favorite stock book of all time. This book, I still use the tenets that I learned in this book today, right now. And I mean, I paid what, $19 for this book, I guess 30 years ago. And I need to send William J. O'Neill a check because the stuff I learned from this book has just been instrumental in how I invest. So one of the main things that I've learned is the supply and demand concept of stocks. So if you're thinking in terms of a stock like a business, that's a good way to approach it at the base level. But because you're trading in an open market with instant liquidity every day, you can hit a button and get in or out of your stock. That dynamic changes how you need to view a stock. And you and I are probably not moving a stock, right? We're not investing enough in a stock to move it up or down. But when these institutions come in and decide they want to buy a stock, pension funds, mutual funds, these large institutions, they have enough demand or supply to move that stock up or down. So you need to be aware of that supply flow and figure out ways to try to get in front of it or participate alongside of it. So looking at charts, the technical analysis that goes with stocks, in addition to the fundamental analysis around the business model and the management and the earnings, et cetera, you need to combine the two together to really be effective when you're investing in stocks. And I learned that from this book. This book is excellent. So I actually have several versions of this book, but I think this was the first one. And this one, I mean, yeah, I used to be all up in the margins on this book. I love this book. This is one of my favorite books ever. How to Make Money in Stocks. Now, this book right here is official. This is reminiscences of a stock operator. And it's a fictional book, but it's about an actual trader from like 100 years ago. Jesse Livermore is one of the most famous traders ever. And this is a book about his life and about his trading philosophy. He took copious, very detailed notes about how we thought about stocks. And he's the old school stock market where, they were writing stuff up on the chalkboard, and he would come in and talk about how he was able to use the sentiment of the crowd against them and use that to his advantage when he was trading stock. I mean, Jesse Livermore lost and remade fortunes a couple of different times in his life. I mean, he was the real deal. And this brings everything together. So all that I learned from those other books, when I read this book, I read this a little later. I was probably about 10 years into trading when I read this book. And it just was, even though it was based back in the early 1900s, the human nature does not change, right? So this is all about understanding the emotions of other people and how you can use it to your advantage. The emotions of people participating in the stock market, how you can use it to your advantage. This book is great. So, and it's well written, and it's a very interesting story. And I learned a lot about stock market history because it was based in the early 1900s. So this is also one of my favorite stock books. From Edwin Lefebvre, however you pronounce that. So this is Antoine Harris with Platinum Bridge Wealth Strategies, and I'll talk to you soon.